wondering how I got into this mix.
Hey everyone, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network, and today we're going to talk about drag queen story time. But before we get into that, I want to remind you guys to bookmark theconsciousresistance.com so you can catch all of our latest content. You don't want to get left in the dust. We're always producing cool new things, documentaries, articles, interviews, essays, podcasts, all kinds of things. So check that out, subscribe to our newsletter, and get that every weekend. Alright, so let's get into this. This past weekend here in Houston, I went to a protest that took place at the Houston Public Library here in the neighborhood of Montrose in the downtown Houston area, pretty close to where I live. And this library was hosting an event called Drag Queen Storytime, and this is not the only place it's been hosted. It's been hosted in places around the U.S., I think, and it's been maybe controversial in a couple places. There had some protests, some kind of resistance to it. And I found out at the last minute that there was a protest going on at the library, so I decided I would go over there and conduct some interviews and shoot a little bit of footage. I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to let you guys hear some of the interviews that I conducted, and you'll be able to hear it. I interviewed a couple of the counter-protesters who were protesting against Drag Queen Storytime and those who were there to support. Now, if you don't know what Drag Queen Storytime is, it's just like what it sounds. There are drag queens sitting down reading books to children. Some of them are like 10 months old, some of them are 5 years old, different. And apparently it's been like the most popular program here in Houston. It was going on November 2018, and there was some backlash because it's at a city library. It's not funded with city money, but it is at a public library, which is funded by taxpayers. But again, it's been the most popular, most well-attended program here in Houston at all the libraries, and these are some of the drag queens you're seeing in the pictures. The books are not about being a drag queen. I don't think it's particularly a promotion of to say, hey, let's be a drag queen. But obviously, there's an interesting conversation to be had around this, and I will kind of keep my own opinions to myself for the moment, and I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts, but I really mainly wanted to just let you hear the conversations I had so you can think about this and you get to hear both sides of the conversation, right, and make up your own mind. I didn't get any of the people on video because most people on both sides didn't want to show their faces, and I think because people are afraid to be doxxed, or just, if people are afraid to say things in public now, unfortunately. So I'll just show you a little bit of B-roll, and you'll hear the voices, and just listen to those as we're going through this, and I think you'll really kind of get a feel for what these people are. Whether or not you agree with one side or the other, you'll get to hear their viewpoints. So check that out and let me know what you guys think in the comments. I really want to hear your viewpoints on this. Is it a dangerous thing? Is it bringing the topic of gender fluidity and transgender, obviously transgender and drag queen are not the same thing, but you'll hear some people express their opinions that they think this is just being exposed to kids at too early of a young age, or it's an agenda by the LGBT community. And again, I have my own views and opinions on this, but we'll keep those aside for the moment, and go ahead and just check this out. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you guys soon. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, you are free. Peace.
Okay. Yeah, well, we're out here basically to protect the children. We're not out protesting in front of gay bars. We understand adults can do what they want, within the law, of course. But we think that this is a real stretch as far as bringing children in here. We see it as a form of indoctrination. We see it as a form of confusing children at that age, and this is an indoctrination that's going on. This is what they they want to get them as young as they can. And they're not the only group, the LGBTQ or the drag queen. There's other groups too. They're doing the same thing, the indoctrination with Islam in the schools. So, and all the sexual, really what we consider, a lot of it is perversion that's going on in the schools as well. So this is an onslaught, out attack, we see it as, against children, because they know that they're very influential. Get them while they're young. That's even been a quote. So
I ask you, so you said to confuse them. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, when you have men dressed up as women and beards and what have you, also pushing the agenda of the LGBTQ. That's confusing for a child. There's just no doubt about it. I mean,
Confuse them as far as like their own gender or their sex?
Own identity, their own identity. And you know, I mean, I am a Christian, and I don't believe that this is healthy for them. I mean, if you knew the background of drag queens, they have a higher rate of suicide, they have a high rate of drugs and alcohol. I mean, look, they're adults, they can do what they want, but as far as, you know, grooming, as they quoting, as far as grooming children into this, making it totally okay and something to aspire to, we don't agree with that.
And so the last question is you said like you're not outside protesting outside of gay bars, obviously, right?
No.
But is your, as far as I know, it's not a taxpayer-funded event, but obviously the library is funded with taxpayer dollars, right? Is that part of your concern as well?
Yeah, that is part of it. That is part of it, because we couldn't go in there and do a Bible study, you know what I mean? And other activities as well.
So if they chose to do this at, like, I don't know, a private venue or something, like, I mean, obviously you would still have a concern with it, but at least it wouldn't be done under taxpayer dollars?
Yes, that makes a difference. I mean, if a parent wants to do it in their home and set it up, that's their prerogative, you know, they're entitled to do that. I don't agree with it, but that is different. But the fact that it's a public library, yes, that is part of the problem.
Can you state your name or whatever if you want to?
Yeah, let me just say Chip.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
As a mother, for everybody hearing out there, for everyone that has children, for everyone who's a grandmother, who's an aunt, who has children in the school, this is coming to your schools, this is coming to your daycares, this is the agenda that LGBTQ has, and it's supported by our mayor, by our city, and it is not moral, it is not family values that we have in Texas, and if we don't stop it now, it will become a law. So you guys need to support us. If you cannot be here today, if you cannot be here next month, you can find out who your councilman is representing you. You can send letters to the mayor. You can send letters to the councilman. Speak up. Speak up for your children, because this is about the children. This isn't about religion. This isn't about what's LGBTQ against Christian. This is about the children, and we need to act up on it now.
What was your name?
Virginia.
I just want to make it clear that for parents, I've got some friends who have a son, quiet, mild-mannered, good student, just an awesome boy. He got into pornography in 6th grade, and within 3 years' time, he has been in and out of a mental institute twice, tearing fences down, violent against the parents, breaking windows out of the house. And this is the known medical effect on the brain of exposing children to gender and sexuality issues at a time where they do not know how to handle it. Particularly coming in here, why do you think they're doing story times for children? Because parents or adults, they already have an idea in their head of what is right and wrong. Children are very impressionable. They are preying on the weak. They're preying on the ones who cannot defend themselves, who don't know any better. And there's nothing wrong with having costumes. I certainly promote literacy. I went through and got a master's degree myself. I promote that all the way. But when you're going to promote your personal agenda, and you understand, the people in the LGBTQ community have gotten in there universally through the influences in their own childhoods. Either they were sexually abused, or they had abandonment issues, or whatever has happened in there. They're not entering into this from a healthy environment. They're not entering into this from a healthy thing that has happened in their life. So what they're doing is propagating what happened to them, bringing it to another generation. And they have stated that they have to do this because it's their only way of surviving. That came straight out of the LGBTQ leaders. So if that is what they're doing, and they even said, you know, we told you before we don't have an agenda in this, it was a lie. They stated it was a lie. So it's clearly an agenda, but the parents, you know, we would not even be out here protesting. We would not be having a question in the courts if people understood the issues that there were with it and just chose not to do it on their own. So I want to get that word out that it is a medical issue. It actually rewires the brain. It can be corrected, but it is a long, hard road. And nobody, I don't want to see anybody go through what my friends have gone through with their son. This is what happens when you expose them to gender issues like this.
What would your solution be in this situation? Would you rather, like if it was up to you, would you rather them just not be hosting these kinds of things? Or like I asked the last gentleman, is it like if they did it in a private venue, I mean obviously you still have your personal preferences, but you might be less upset because it's in a public place, or what are your thoughts on that? What's the solution?
The solution is really, I believe, to educate the parents as to the medical issues that are there, and then to put safeguards in place, because we understand sex abuse for a child is already a known crime. And if a parent is doing that to their child, CPS can take them away. Now, I don't want children to be taken away from their parents. I want parents to know the negative effects of this so that they can be, educated and not expose their children to it. So if we, who have the medical evidence, can come out and say, look, we are setting laws in place to protect our citizens, to protect our children, then that is a safeguard. It doesn't keep parents from doing it on their own unless it's found out. If you recognize this is considered child abuse, well, then they're not allowed to do it in any venue, even in their house.
Would you consider somebody, a child being raised by LGBTQ parents, whatever they identify as particularly, would you consider that to be a form of child abuse?
Anytime you're going to take a child and introduce gender questions, gender issues, let me tell you, when I was 5 years old on the playground, I played with all the boys. I had no concept of boys and girls. We were kids. We were just having fun. And every child has the right to do that, to be able to grow up without having to answer these questions, without having to have these thoughts. Just be themselves. As you grow older, you learn about these things. You can make your own choices. But I don't know one person who has chosen that lifestyle out of a place of health and stability.
Without some sort of other adult influence or something?
Yes, that's right.
And then I guess there's also different ways of people being exposed to things like this that you have concerns with, say through like YouTube channels and just things on the internet.
Exactly, absolutely. We would not be here today if this society had not overly sexualized everything. You can't drive down the highway without seeing it on a sign. You see sex in all the ads, and the sex has nothing to do with what they're selling even. This is much bigger than just what's going on at this library today.
What's your name, or any name you want to give?
I'm just a Christian supporter. Yes.
My name is Michelle Aiello, and I think it's super important for us to be out here because I'm a former reading teacher. I'm an instructional leader here in Houston Public Schools, and I think anything that's getting parents involved in literacy and kids involved in literacy outside of school needs to be supported. This is one of the highest attendance rated programs here in Houston in regards to story times and libraries, and these people really have zero right to tell the city or these parents that they can't use this public space to promote literacy.
So what do you think about the concerns? I just spoke to a few people there. Their concerns that they told me specifically, they're concerned about, most of them are Christian, and they consider this like, LGBT influence being put into kids' head at a too young of an age when they're, impressionable and they don't have time to make up their own mind, that kind of thing. What are your thoughts on that?
None of the books that are being read are developmentally inappropriate. They're all talking and speaking on, acceptance, love, friendship, books that we would read in school anyway. Teachers would be reading to students. In this setting, nothing in regards to instruction or being developmentally inappropriate is happening within the story space. So, we promote dress up and play through pedagogy all the time, from EC through 8th grade. So to say that, they really have no basis. It's all based on a feeling and not fact, if that makes sense.
So more specifically, their issue is with, and I'm going to quote one of the people, men with beards dressed up teaching kids. So like not necessarily the content, but I guess, who is doing the reading.
Who's doing it? Well, if they don't like it, don't show up. This is a voluntary program that uses zero taxpayer money. You can't govern how people parent. We don't govern how they parent and what they teach their children and what they're exposed to. I would think that as long as it's not developmentally inappropriate and harming, who are you to try to say what another parent does? It's just like a program on the TV. If you don't like it, change the channel. That's your right.
One solution someone offered over there was that perhaps it could be, because like you said, the programs themselves are not funded by taxpayer dollars, but they're saying, well, the library is funded with taxpayer dollars, and since we all pay that, we should have a say in what programs are there. And one person said, if they was at a private venue, I would have less of a problem. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, if you go through the proper protocol and channels for having a program in a public space, then you followed policy. So rewrite policy, I guess, if they don't like it, if that's their concern, because they went, the organizers of Drag Queen Storytime went through all of the appropriate channels and protocols, and this program was approved by educated people in the field of library stuff, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? And children's education. So take it up with them. That's above even my pay grade, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
One more question.
Okay,
oh.
Ice Painter. Yes. Set up at that table. Okay. You want to show
All right, so one last question. And I'm sorry if I'm not trying to get too close.
Oh, no, it's okay, for sure.
So just your personal thoughts on this. I'm more curious, I guess, about how you feel about this. Just the idea, again, a couple of them expressed this, that, well, my issue is that, like you said, developmentally, the kids are, okay, let me just tell you the personal anecdote that was shared with me. I was a child, and I played with boys all the time, and up until age of 10, I didn't think about, what gender I was or who I was attracted to, and by them introducing these kinds of concepts, having drag queens there, they're getting children to think about it before they're ready to.
Bullcorn. I'm gonna say bullcorn because I just read a story. There's been 3 since August that I've read where we have children in elementary school questioning their gender and or sexual orientation, and we've had 3 elementary school children in our country commit suicide this year, since August, for being bullied and or questioning. So why aren't we creating safe spaces inside and outside of school where children and parents can thrive, if that makes sense?
And their counter, I think, of what I heard afterwards was that, well, like what you're doing here, certain YouTube channels, certain programs on TV, that there's an agenda that's being pushed, and
No, the agenda is kindness. The agenda is kindness, love, and acceptance.
That's the only agenda.
Yeah, correct.